Good afternoon, everybody. We are here at AllpointsTV.com. I normally would say when I'm introducing my program, I say morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're tuning the program in, but we are now going live with this program, and we are going to be interviewing Mr. Dave Huffman, and I'm so glad to have him here in the studio. And Mr. Huffman, it's good to have you.
Thank you, George.
It's a pleasure to have talked to you off camera first, and now we are going to do a live feed, and it'll be up and running on YouTube at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting an education here. We've been talking off the record, and there are so many things I didn't know. I feel like I have another PhD in terms of local government. So, Dave, you're running for one of the 4 seats. Is that correct?
Well, there's 4 trustee seats on the Flint Township board, and I'm running for one of the 4 seats.
4 seats.
Yes.
So all of the 4 seats that's on the board, you are running for one of them, and you're the only Republican candidate?
I'm the only Republican candidate that filed, so I do not have a primary opponent, so I'll be on the ballot in the general election. And I'll face off against the 4 Democrats that get through their primary in the general election.
Well, will the voters be able to vote since you don't have an opponent in the primary? Will they be able to vote for you at that point, or?
My understanding is I don't think you can cross over in a primary. I think you either have to vote in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary.
Okay.
I'm not 100%, if that's true.
It's a straight ballot, is what you're
But
saying?
yeah, I think that's the way the primary is. Or in the general election,
Right.
you can vote, you can split your tickets, you can go
Yeah,
back
you're
and
correct.
forth on both sides.
Right, okay. The reason why I'm asking that is because I live in the township.
Yes.
So you have my vote.
Oh, I appreciate that, George.
let me tell the viewers how I met you.
Okay.
Okay, and then we get into your campaign.
Okay.
I was reading the Facebook, and I was watching your post, and I was asking myself when I was reading what you were writing and also the kind of posting you were doing, I was saying, who is this guy? Because there was some substance there that I wasn't seeing elsewhere. So when I began to read what you were writing, I said that this is the person I got to meet. And I don't know if that's, 2 or 3 years ago we met?
Yeah, it was. In fact, we even did, after President Trump was elected, we even did a couple of shows about national politics. And we did a show with a good friend of mine and yours, Henry Hatter, one time too.
Right.
But we were just sort of going freewheeling on national politics.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what you've done for me. I'm basically focused on the national.
Yes.
Although I know they say all politics is local.
Yes.
But I've been focused on because I think it's so critical that we in fact get the national landscape in place and get the direction of the country right. Mm-hmm. But what you've done for me is you've helped me to get more localized in my orientation toward the political arena. And I feel like I've been schooled here just listening to what you've been saying for the last, we've been talking for about an hour now off camera. And I'm looking forward to what you're going to be saying here on air. So you're running a campaign and you're running for one of the 4 seats up for re-election. You don't have a primary opponent.
That's correct.
Will be running in the November election. And I think your timing in that regard is very good because I think that a lot of persons coming out in that campaign, giving Donald Trump the magnet that will be the national campaign of Donald Trump. You're running as a Republican.
Yes.
So you don't have a primary opponent. So what are you going to be doing during the primary as far as your campaign? Are you going to be out there knocking on doors? Or
Well, George, that's an excellent question. And normally, I would be doing, I've been involved in politics in the past. In fact, 4 years ago, when I ran for supervisor in the township, that's the way the campaigns usually were run, a lot of door-to-door. You go into different precincts in, the township. Mm-hmm. People like to see a politician out, running for office and to talk to you personally about the issues. And that's the way that it used to be out in the township, and I'm sure that's the way it used to be around the state as far as county and state and national races. To a certain extent, it was door to door. Well, this time we've got a new ballgame going because of the virus that happened and a lot of things that have swirled around this. And I have talked to other candidates, that are running for county and state office, and they seem to be in agreement from what I'm saying. This is going to be a different type of campaign this year because it's going to be more media, it's going to be more internet, Facebook, YouTube, local Comcast stations to get your message across and hopefully get the right message where people know you and understand where you're coming from. And also, I guess when the thing really gets going after the primary, after we move into the general election, I will probably be sending out political brochures, which I used to go door to door and pass those out too. Well, now I think those will just be going out mass mailings in the certain precincts into the township to back up hopefully everything else that I'm setting the groundwork for. So with a combination of the media like this and sending stuff out in the mail, being visible as much as I can, who knows, maybe people will feel more comfortable with a little bit of door-to-door as time goes on between now and November. If that's the truth, I'll be out there. But right now, you've got to be real careful about that because not that people love to see politicians come to their house all the time anyways, but now you might be double jeopardy coming out under the circumstances, what's happened with this virus.
I see. Hopefully nobody will be hiding in their basement.
I hope not.
And we'll be out doing as much campaigning with the public as possible. So you do think, though, that the campaigning will be different because of the COVID-19?
Absolutely, and it doesn't matter if it's local, county, state. It's going to be different.
Now, there are 7 candidates that are running for 4 positions. Does that include your candidacy or just all the Democrats that are running in the primary?
No, they're in the primary. There's going to be 7 Democrats running for the 4 trustee spots.
Okay.
And the top 4 vote getters in that primary will be on the ballot in the general election in November. And I'll be on the ballot in the general election because I have no primary. So it's going to come down to there's going to be 5 trustees, and out of the 5 trustees, the top 4 vote getters will be your new board members.
Let me ask you about that. Why do you think that you're the only Republican that is on the ticket for the supervisor position?
For trustee.
Board trustee position. Yes. So why do you think that you're the only Republican that's going to be on the ballot?
Well, this is a little history lesson. This is sort
I love your history lesson, by the way.
This is sort of an historical thing because the last, once upon a time, back in the early 70s, we had a board that was controlled 4-3 by Republicans for one point of time.
In Genesee County?
In Flint Township.
In Township.
Flint Township. Out of those 4.
I mean, in terms of the county, I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, but it was. And one of those members was my father, Dr. Huffman. He was a Flint Township trustee. Now, this is back in the early 70s. So if history can repeat itself 50 years later and I can win, I will be the first elected Republican trustee on the board for the first time in 50 years.
Wow. So we are talking about a diversity issue here then in terms of getting some different voices.
And George, this is sort of, now that we've brought it up here, and going back to the history of the township, Flint Township, when my dad was on the board, the demographics were pretty close as far as Democratic and Republican voters, as far as percentage that lived out there. It was about half and half.
Really?
Well, as time went on, over the decades and the years, it became really predominantly a lot more Democratic. More people maybe working in the factories coming up and their families. It became almost, the demographics out there almost became, I think, 60% Democratic. I don't know what they are now, but they still lean, sort of that way. But I think the reason why it happened, and it is sort of funny because we've had Democrats that have been elected to the board who first started their political careers running as Republicans out there. We had trustees that sat on the board that ran as Republicans and found out the demographics and decided we'll run as a Democrat to win, but obviously conservative. But they were just doing it because they knew the only way they could win in a highly Democratic area was to run as a Democrat. But there were a lot of conservative people that had run as a Republican out there before, but they just found it hopeless because they couldn't get the numbers to win an election.
So what do you think happened over time in terms of why the shift occurred?
Like I say,
people moving out?
People maybe moving out of the area, more people moving in, and let's face it, Genesee County, the history of Genesee County with our unions, the union families, decades and decades. The Democratic Party was sort of had the big pulpit here that ran the show, and I guess some people even thought, well, I want to vote for a winner. It's getting so bad now that we know a Republican can't win, so even though we might be more conservative, we're going to vote for the Democrat. We want a winner. I think a lot of that mentality happened too.
I see.
Now, here's an interesting thing for you that I found out, and this is interesting to me, and I think it might be interesting to you. When I filed my papers to run for trustee as a Republican, I was told by our township clerk, and this was really interesting to me, because we had our presidential primary the first week in March, before they closed down the whole country because of the virus. She says, Dave, she says, are you running as a Republican, is that correct? And I said, yes, I am. And she goes, she said, usually in a presidential primary, when they're voting for the Republican or Democrat, there's a huge gap, a huge percentage in this township over, the Democrat over the Republican. She says, Dave, this time, there wasn't that big a gap as far as percentages between President Trump and the Democratic challengers.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, maybe there's a ray of hope here at the end of the tunnel, because
I would think so.
That's a good sign.
Were you surprised that Donald Trump won the state in 2016?
I wasn't really surprised, because I knew he outworked everybody, and I saw what his rallies were doing, and I saw the enthusiasm that he had. It was an upset, but it didn't surprise me. I thought he would win.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah, I had stated on the day of the election, November the 8th, 2016, I had said on my Facebook post that the country is getting ready to get a wake-up call and a shock. Donald Trump is going to be elected the 45th president of the United States. I saw the rallies, and I saw the phone booth kind of rallies that was being peopled by the Clinton campaign. And I said, "Wow, I'm not my lying eyes are not telling me what the media is telling me." So I kind of had seen the storm that awaited that campaign.
Yeah. But anyways, there was a lot of different circumstances why that happened in the township. But let's face it, I think the government best runs when there's equal representation. When one party is in control of everything, things tend to get out of hand. Doesn't matter if it's an all Republican or all Democratic. If there's no blend, that's not good government.
I would agree with you. So do you have the percentage of persons in the township that voted Republican in 2016, let's say on the presidential level?
Yes. The way that this is going to work out for me to win this thing, obviously the Republicans, I hope, vote for me. I'm Republican. I've run in the past, 4 years ago, as a Democrat, and I had a few thousand people that voted for me, and hopefully I'll still get people that put party aside on the local level that, like me as a candidate, will vote for me, switch over and vote for me. And also, of course, you have the independents out there, and you're always trying to track them because they go one way or another. Hopefully I'll have the right message for them, because I'm going to need a blend of all three things to win this.
All three things?
Independents, Democrats, Republicans.
Okay.
I'm going to have a blend. Okay. So that's
what percentage of the township would be Republican, would you say?
Oh, in a presidential election, maybe 25 to 30%.
So, and then, of course, it's the enthusiasm factor, too, because
Yes.
it doesn't mean because you're outnumbered, outgunned,
Yeah.
numerically speaking, that means that is the disadvantage you have. It's also about the enthusiasm of the turnout,
Yes.
the voter turnout.
Hopefully, I'll generate some enthusiasm too. Okay. Now, as far as we'll get into sort of the potatoes of my campaign here on the local level. What I'd like to do if I do get elected, my agenda. Number one.
We'll get into your agenda.
Okay.
Let's talk about your campaign theme.
Yes.
You're telling me off camera you are running, your campaign theme is government. What is that again?
It's my campaign committee. It's a voice for you.
Voice for you.
Yes.
We need some voices in government. They've kind of closed us out.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I feel like I'm excluded. I voted. I don't hear from them for the next 4 years.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, from I've made speeches out to the township.
You guys come around and let us see your face when you're not.
I've made speeches out to the township before running for office. And I said, we need a voice for the people, because apparently the way it's going, and I used to point to the politicians of the board and say, here's the hierarchy, here's the royalty, and out here we have the citizens that are paying to run the show, to all the bills, but yet we're the paupers. We're the people that get sort of mistreated. We're not listened to. We pay all the bills. We sort of run the show. We're their bosses, but it's like the old French cliche. What was it? Let them eat cake.
Yeah.
And I've made that speech at the township hall.
I see.
Before.
Okay.
And that's the way I sort of feel about it, because when you see what's going on with property taxes, business taxes, everything that's going on in Flint Township, and people really have some concerns, and they go up and address the township board, well, the township representatives are always very nice, but they're never listened to, and there's no action. It's always, I'll get back with you, maybe we can come up with something, and that's about as far as it goes. Where a lot of these business people that I know, and a lot of residents that I know, and neighbors, what have you, when they go up and ask the township some questions about taxes, they'd like some answers. And apparently, they just don't want to work hard enough to give them those answers.
Okay, so let's go over some things so you're running now, this is your second time running for a position on the
Township board? No, I've run a couple of times for
okay.
trustee, but as a Democrat.
As a Democrat?
Yes.
Okay, what years did you run in the past?
The last time I ran was 4 years ago when I ran for supervisor.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I think 4 years before that, I think I ran for trustee at one time. Okay.
Okay, so the trustee position, see, I'm learning about how the local, I live in the township, but I'm not as studious in that as I am in terms of on the my focus is more national, as I said. But tell us how the hierarchy is on the township board. Who are the
on the township board? You have 7 members.
7 members. Okay.
You have the administration, a full-time job, which is a supervisor. She's the executive of the township, or he. They are the executive. They set the agenda.
She run that's Cheryl. That's
they're like the mayor.
Karen. That's
yes,
Karen.
Karen Miller.
Karen Miller.
Yes.
She is now. Is she part of the 7?
Yes.
So she runs
one of 7 votes.
So is her position differently described on the ballot than?
Well, yes, she would be supervisor.
She running as supervisor.
Yes.
The rest of the other 6 then?
Well, then you have the township clerk.
Then the clerk.
And that's the same thing. They're on the ballot as township clerk. And then you have the township treasurer, and that is stated township treasurer.
Okay.
And then people that are running for trustee are trustee candidates.
Now, how many is that again? How many trustees?
There's right now in the Democratic primary, there's 7. There's 4 incumbents and 3 challengers running. And on the Republican side, me, so that would be 8.
Doesn't include the supervisor's position running? That's not included in that?
No, it's just the trustees.
Okay.
Right now, here's the way the breakdown is in town.
See, I'm getting education too, just by
Karen Miller,
what you're saying.
Karen Miller is running unopposed.
Okay.
Our Lisa Anderson, our township treasurer, she's running unopposed. Our township clerk, Kathy Funk, does have a primary. She's got another lady that's running against her, so she's going to have to win the primary to retain her clerk's position. So that's the only challenge in the 3 positions is the clerk.
I see. Now, so why do you think that of the 3 positions you mentioned that the candidate has an opposition and the other 2 do not have that? So is that something to be said about that, or is that just
there's no rhyme or reason for that. Sometimes people don't like the. I've always said that people that should run for politics don't. And the people that shouldn't do. but to be fair about it, Karen Miller has been the supervisor. She's going on her 4th term, and I don't agree with her 100%. But on the whole, as far as being a decent leader for the township, she's done a pretty credible job.
Okay.
We had a young lady.
So you believe in crossing over the aisle then, because you're saying.
Well, if I'm on this board, I'm going to have to work with 6 Democrats. So I'm going to, we're going to have to work together, and they all know me. I don't think there would be a problem with that either. I really don't.
You work well with people, Dave, and you're so knowledgeable. I'm just impressed with. I feel like I've got another degree. Just we sit down and talk before we start doing the taping here.
Don't count yourself short. The township politics. I've lived it, breathed it, been around it all my life, and that's why I've sat on different committees. I've sat on a road commission, I told you, for 10 years in the township, all volunteer.
Okay.
And right now, the board that I sit on out there is the economic board. All the businesses coming in and out of the township. It's called the Economic Development Board, and I sit on that board right now. And that helps me too, because I get an idea of everything that's transpiring between corporate businesses, small businesses, everything the township's got leaving, everything the township's got coming out or in. That's a nice thing for me to know what's going on business-wise running for office out there. That's a good thing for me. I'm knowledgeable on it.
I see.
Okay, so that's
You're definitely knowledgeable on it. If you win, I will start coming to some of the board meetings to see what kind of interaction you have with the other Democrats on the board. But I think that one party status, though, I'm always bothered. We're not Moscow and we're not Beijing.
No.
And don't want to see a one party state or one party.
it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
And here again, I'm just not picking on the Democrats having one party. If
Yeah, I don't
it
want-
was vice versa, if it was all Republicans out there,
It'd be the
they'd
same
be
problem.
It would be the same.
I don't
thing.
want to see
Yeah.
a one party situation, regardless of what party is the ones in power.
Yes.
And I'm the people think I'm a Republican. I'm really independent. I don't really classify myself as being that, but I do lean toward the more conservative view.
We know a lot of people now, regardless of if you're independent, Democratic, or Republican, the big thing is they say, well, are you a big party? Well, nowadays it seems like people won't go so, I mean, yeah, they're with a party, obviously, but they'll say, no, I'm a progressive, I'm a liberal, or like in your case, my case, I'm conservative. To me, conservative always meant common sense.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of people try to
Not too
make
much. That's not too common anymore.
big thing, but basically, that's what conservative means. You're not all in for 100% control of your life, of government, 24/7. You're for independence. Each person is responsible for their own actions, for their own backyard. And that's why this country became so great because of that. Not
Yes.
that there hasn't been Democrats that have thought that way before, but now I'm afraid when you take a look at the national level, that's not the case anymore.
How did you come up with the slogan that you have for your campaign, "Voices for You"? How did you come up with that?
Well, I just sat down, and here again, like I said, I've been in the township, I've been involved in the township, I've sat on boards in the township, I care about Flint Township, I've paid hundreds of thousands of taxes over the 50 years that I've lived to be in the township, to the government. So I'm very concerned about Flint Township. I've got a card in the card game with this thing.
Yes,
I'm a resident out there. I care about the township because how that township goes is how my life is going to go out there too. Okay, so I'm very interested in good government and keeping that township strong.
I see. You said your campaign slogan is "Voice for You." Do you think there's a voice that the people have now, or how do you see?
Hopefully, I would bring a voice to the
representation?
table that they haven't had.
Okay,
Because-
another voice from
Yes.
a different persuasion.
Yes. I think maybe I would have more of an overall view of everything that goes on in that township, and I would have constructive things to do and constructive things to say on the operation of the township, where the rest of it has been sort of put under the rug.
Yeah, you know what I like to see? I like to see, and I don't see an example of it anywhere at this point, but I like to see the two-party system working the way it was intended. I'm a person I have my doctorate degree in government.
Yes.
And I'm the person that would like to see the framers' idea, pretty much situated in our politics in the country, what they intended to do. They didn't even think about parties. What they were trying to do is blend the country into a harmonious whole, so it worked to the advantage of the people. And so we, the people of the United States, was the idea. And this divisional stuff that we've gotten into.
George, the forefathers were smart people, and
Brilliant people.
Even for a long time, before you got into this petty gutter snipe stuff that we see in national politics today. Back when I was growing up, even in I was born in 1951, and when I was growing up, even in the 60s, at least both political parties, I think, respected each other, and they could work together, and their idea, all the ideas would come to the table, and good government was we take the best of the Democrats' ideas and the best of the Republican ideas and compromise it, and that was good government. But that's not the way it is anymore.
Well, when you think it changed, that it stopped being that? When you have an idea when it? I know it's changed.
I hate to say it, but I think, unfortunately, politics is a competitive game. It's a sports game. It's very competitive, related to sports. There's that thing, but I'm afraid what happened. Some of the egos and some of the money, and let's face it, power, not so much on a township trustee is very important. I'm a legislator on a local level. I'm just like a state rep. I'm a township, I'm not like a county commissioner that just oversees a budget.
Right.
I'm a legislator.
Okay.
But on some of these national jobs, Congress, Senate, go down to the state Senate, state rep, they became so powerful, people got drunk on the power of the positions. And then not only did they become powerful on the position itself, on the kind of power, they could wield politically, it started because of special interests and some of the people that started supporting these people on the state, even goes down to the township, national level, they started to see their bank accounts go up big time. They became rich on politics, some of these professional politicians over the years. In your office, you go into office not too rich and you come out worth millions of dollars. What does that tell you what's wrong with our system?
I see. What do you think changed?
But I think that changed. I think that was, they got so used to the power and the money, they became drunk on their own power so much it became, if they were out of power, they were gonna do everything, no matter how dirty or vindictive it is, to get power.
Was it a different kind of mindset that people that was going into politics and that were?
Yes, they were more of the
changed.
citizens on both parties. They came. They weren't professional, bought and sold politicians. They came to do a good job for the public. They came to do maybe 2 or 3 terms and then to go back into their private life. Now you've got people that probably shouldn't be involved in politics that can't make it, in business or their private life. They see an easy way to go for these jobs of paying $200,000 a year for a United States congressman and all your benefits. That's not too shabby. If they can't do anything else, they see the power and the money for basically just giving a few sound bites once in a while, and you get addicted to that. You want to stay there forever. That's a nice lifestyle when you haven't got anything close to it, and I think that's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
Term limitations might help do away with that, but right now, no term limitations on the national level.
You told me that off camera that the only positions that have term limits in the state are the state positions.
Yes.
The governor and lieutenant governor. Those
You have term limitations in all state government.
state government.
You can only be a combination state rep and state senator for 16 years. Governor, 2 terms. It's all termed on the state level. You go down here to where I'm at on the local level, I can be a township trustee for 100 years. There's no term limitations. The same thing on the county level. No term limitations. State here, yes. National level, no term limitation. Only term limitation that we have, none on local, county, or national, only on state.
Okay, I don't want to run out of time before we talk about your campaign,
Yes.
what you're going to be running on, as far as some things you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about some of the things that you have that you want to? Why are you running, and then what are you going to do? once you get there?
And I've got a few talking points here. And I mentioned to you, I would like to bring back. We had in the township for 50 years. The township meetings were on the first and third Mondays at 7 o'clock. That means people that work all day have a chance to come home, have dinner, go to the meeting. Well, now they've switched this back in the last 3 or 4 months to 6 o'clock. Well, it wasn't for the convenience of the citizens; it was for the convenience of the politicians that are up there doing their jobs at 5:30.
Watch that program.
They just come out of their offices and go to the board meeting, and they're right there. And you don't want them to suffer. I mean, my gosh, they're up there working so hard for us. My gosh, we got to get them out of there early. Forget the public that's paying the bills, out working. And like you say, that cuts them off too. If they can't make the meeting, or before they could, they're not going to go. That's not right. That needs to go back to 7 o'clock. Also,
it was just changed recently. You told me it's
Yes.
been changed recently in the last 2 or 3 months.
yes.
Why would they change it to make it more inconvenient, other than the fact you don't want? Whether are those meetings well attended, or is it?
Well, it's some of them are, some of them aren't. Just depends what the issue are. But township halls aren't packed unless something really goes wrong.
Right.
But still, there's a lot of people, a core of maybe 20, 30 people that really like coming to those meetings and are very sincere about the township, and that goes for anybody else where they can get to the meeting.
Yeah.
That puts a crimp in
Yeah,
it.
anything that hampers the participation in the process is bad.
Yes.
Even if you have multitudes of people showing up all the time.
That's one thing
you
I'd like
wanna-
to bring back.
Okay.
And another thing too, they've got the township.
So you want to go back to 7 o'clock rather than what they
Six,
changed to a
yes,
couple
I
of
want
months
to change
ago.
it back.
Okay.
The townships are open, in not only Flint Township, a lot of them supposedly to cut back costs when Monday through Thursday, no Fridays. In other words, every day, if you work for township government, you got a 3-day weekend. Plus all your holidays, plus everything, plus. It's a pretty decent job. as a taxpayer and as far as citizens, I know a lot of people that go up there that try to do business on a Friday, it's closed. I don't think that that's right. I think that ought to be open Monday through Friday.
Would you shorten the hours then? They have. I noticed, and on I go and pay my taxes on It's Dye Road,
Yes.
right? Dye and Corona.
Corona Road, yes.
So they have it open from what, 8:30 to 5:30?
5:30, I think it is.
Yeah. So would would the hours change if you have
Well,
it for 6 days?
it wouldn't change drastically because they have a clerical union out there that they only work so many hours a week. Okay, yeah. But you could adjust those hours like 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 and just
Same hours, but it'd be stretched over 5
they'd
days.
be a little bit different, but you could still. The normal business hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You could go back to that.
Yeah.
How they would have to adjust that with their employees, whatever, that's up to them. But no matter how they do it, I think the township offices ought to be open to business to the public Monday through Friday, just not Monday through Thursday. A lot of people I know have gone up there on a Friday and it's not open and it's discouraging.
Yeah. I've gone there sometimes, think I can pay my taxes
Yes.
and then if you don't pay it at this time, then there's a penalty if you don't get it in at the moment it's due. So that would, I would think that's a good issue to run on.
I would hope that it would be. It's common sense.
Yeah, it's common sense.
It's
How long has it been that way though, when they open 4 days?
They've been open 4 days now, I think, for at least the last 4 years at least. It could be even longer than that.
Yeah.
But they changed it around a few years ago and they've run with it ever since.
Yeah, I wonder, so were the hours shortened or lengthened?
No, they just I think they kept the hours lengthened maybe a little bit more Monday through Thursday. Instead of opening at 9 to 5, they open from I think 8:30 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday or something.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to have, jobs are Monday through Friday, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a job Monday through Thursday.
To me it doesn't. I'm just here again. My campaign's a voice for you, a voice for the public. I represent the public, not the people that have got all the administrative jobs up there. We pay them to run the township, and right now, a township is a service. They're not getting the service they should get.
Was the selling point of getting the township board open? I mean, the service open 4 days. What was the selling point to bring that about?
Well, supposedly they saved on light,
the
utilities, water. I don't see how, when you break it down, even on that, as far as, saving on utilities and that sort of thing. There maybe a study could show they were saving a little bit, but I don't think enough to
was
do that.
that a selling point though, that they were
I
saying
guess.
that we are?
Yeah, I guess that was a selling point.
They tried that. They tried that idea. That's one thing they floated around school.
Yeah.
Talking about how we're going to save money and cut down costs.
It never quite works out that way.
I don't see how you could have had school open 4 days. And of course, I don't see how you can skip people over grade they never even went to, and then they're now going to be graduating next year. We're all going to.
And then another thing I would like to address
just want to make government make some sense to us.
Yeah, is taxes. Every year, my assessment in Flint Township goes up and up. It doesn't go down. It goes up. Also, I know a lot of people who have been in the township, small business owners that are good friends of mine. The same thing with them. One gentleman in particular has a big business in the township on Corona Road, and he's got a building that has been assessed by his own personal assessment people that he paid to come in and do a professional assessment job at $230,000. Our Flint Township government is appraising his taxes on that small business for $440,000. He came up to a board meeting one time and said, "Listen, it is not worth $440,000." But he says, "I'll tell you what, if you guys can sell it for $440,000, I'll give you a percentage." And
no takers.
No takers. All we heard up there on that township board was crickets. Okay, so that's
so you think that what they're doing is that they're raising the assessment to cover some of the liabilities that happen because businesses moving out.
Here's the attitude that you get in Flint Township. They have an assessor, a level 4 assessor, and they're giving their marching orders on their, their mathematical equations, how to do these taxes. They're given their marching orders by Lansing, okay? And of course, if you're a township assessor, the more people, the more money, the more revenue that you can create for the township, you're gonna do it. Because you're getting paid about $80,000, $90,000 a year to be a level 4 assessor. okay? You really don't wanna hear my problems as far as I think I'm getting taxed too much, or a small business person's getting taxed too much. They have a board of review, board of appeals, if you wanna appeal that thing. But good luck with that. You go up there and they've got all these appointed people in the township, and there's not too many cases that get favorable
Yeah,
lower ratings.
yeah,
It's sort of like a kangaroo court.
I can testify to that. I went to appeal last time, and
So you know,
I
like
know from first-hand
experience.
experience. I just did it one time, but I
Yeah.
wasn't satisfied with the outcome.
But you know,
might as well state it.
George, here's what I'm saying. A voice for you. Going back to my campaign, we've had business people, we've had residents go up and express, they're not happy with this stuff, and they always get, well, we'll get back with you. We'll talk to some assessors and we'll get some answers for you, and that's as far as it goes. I'm not gonna promise anything that I can lower their taxes, but I will tell you one thing right now. If I was a board member that sat there in that board of trustees and this stuff came up about assessments and business assessments that I didn't think was fair, at least say, you know what? I'm gonna appeal that to the state of Michigan, or wherever, they're getting their marching orders for this township or the assessments or whatever the powers that be. I do not think this is right, and if I have to write a letter to the powers that be that say that this isn't right, I wanna see, let's get to the bottom of this and see if this is fair, or if it's transparent, or what's going on, but at least give the people a legitimate answer. Let's just not slough people off. And if I'm elected, that's the way it's gonna be. I'm gonna ask some questions. I'm not gonna be sloughing residents off.
Well, one of the things that's happening right now, you see that what's happening in the valley. You had a lot of businesses out there. Now, Sears is gone. I think J.C. Penney's is like on the ropes.
So I think Macy's hanging there
Macy's
too.
hanging in there, yeah. So it's going to be a downsizing of the tax base, just in the fact businesses are now going out of business in the township. So what are they going to do in terms of make up the revenue stream?
Well, George, that's a $24 million question. What's the future gonna hold? Because
We're not going to be raising our taxes.
yeah, but how much taxes can the residents? There's a limit.
Not much more.
But we're right here. We're at our breaking point right now. I'm retired. There's a breaking point where you just finally say, "That's it. I'm moving. I can't do this anymore." Okay. And there's a lot of people, I think, that are to that point. I think some of these small business people are at that point. They can't get any kind of common sense relief on their taxes, yet they're doing business and paying, 4 times more what a resident is for the taxes that go into the township revenue. Okay, so there's a problem. So what's gonna happen? You can't keep on raising taxes. They got lucky in the township. I told you when they were having budget problems, they put together a public safety millage, and it was a 10-year commitment to the taxpayers for $30 million. Well, they sold it on the public safety, which is fine, but let me tell you something, George, if that wouldn't have passed, and that revenue wouldn't have passed, you would have seen some big layoffs in personnel in that township. They would have had no choice. This saved their bacon for a while. That millage is about ready to run out in a year or two. We're gonna face another thing, what they wanna do at that point in time too. Because right now, like you say, a lot of big corporate businesses moving out, small businesses does not make that up. The residents are taxed up right now. You can't keep on expecting to sell these huge millages to the public all the time. It's just, it's come to a breaking point now.
Yeah, I think so. When I moved out to the township, I was paying, and I came out of Flint. So when I moved to township, I came from the Flint, city of Flint. And the taxes I was paying there, when I moved out, I began to pay that. What I was paying is my house payment. That became my monthly tax. This is the house payment, and taxation township was that house payment plus some additional monies and so on and so forth. So, given the downsizing of the business sector in the township, what are you seeing as the future of the township, given the fact that the tax base is eroding and we're now up to our ears in terms of
there's no Swami
taxation.
You can't wave a magic wand over this, but I think what's going to happen in the future, and I sit on the economic board right now. We have a director of our business people, Tracy Tucker. She's the head of our business, bringing in businesses, and she works hard and she does a really good job. But I really believe that they're going to have to really buckle down in this township and maybe have the politicians locked in, maybe more with a business board members that really go out and solicit businesses professionally, with an agenda why you should come into Flint Township, in which they're starting to do more and more. They're doing this right now, but I think it's going to even have to be on a higher mode and more aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's a very aggressive thing to go for businesses, and that's why you can't treat the businesses that you've got already bad, which is going on. They'll leave. They'll take so much. So you're going to have to start treating people that have the businesses in the township on a lot nicer level, and to be a lot more fair with them, and also be very proactive and very aggressive to do everything in your power when you hear a business, and make it, because of our demographics. Our demographics out there are great. We're close to all the expressways. We have Bishop International Airport. I mean, Flint Township should be one hell of a place where you could have a profitable business. But you see what's happening in the Genesee Valley. They're all moving out, and it's almost it's a huge parking lot out there now.
Yes, it is.
And millions of dollars of lost revenue.
You're talking about demographics. Do you have any statistics on the retirement percentage of people in the township that are retired?
Yes, that's a very good point. I wish I would have brought that at the last economic meeting that we had. They broke it down by the average income of people working in the township, the number of retirees. They had it broken down, and that's a very good question. I don't have that with me right now, but in a future thing, I could get that for you.
Is it highly quantifiable in terms of the percentage of those who are retired and those that are still working? Because that would be significant in terms of your tax base in the future. If you have retirees and they have that fixed income, then of course that's going to restrict.
But I think the percentage is still said that we have enough people out there that are working, that if we could do some things to get more business out there and generate more of a positive thing, that we might be able to dodge the bullet on a lot of this stuff. But if we don't, and it keeps on going, corporate decisions keep leaving, businesses go out of, small businesses can't afford to be in the township, can't afford the taxes anymore, your residents are having a problem paying the taxes. If that ever gets to a certain point, like I've said to some people, as much as I love Flint Township, pick out your seats on the Titanic. Where do you want to sit? Because we're in some very different times, and like I say, a lot of it wasn't caused by your corporate businesses. The computer age of everybody shopping on Amazon. When you can sit in your living room in an air conditioned day like today and pick out what you want, and not even have to go in the car and look what you want, and push a button and put it on a credit card, and then they deliver it to your house. That's 50% of the problem right now too. People have basically, in this age, George, they've become very lazy.
When you said that to me off camera, I had to think about what I'm doing, and we get our dog food. We have 2 dogs, and we get our dog food. We don't go to the local store in the township too much anymore. We do some things there, but basically we have it imported from Chewy.com.
Yeah.
And so I know what you're talking about as far as the push button kind of
and it's an easy way to do business, but when you're a corporate realtor like JCPenney or Lowe's or Home Depot or any of the big corporate people, and you're getting 50% of the people staying at home on their computers and not shopping in their stores, you're going to go out too.
Well, what is your assessment of the shutdowns effect upon the businesses in the township? Do you think a lot of what percentage of those will not be?
We had a grant that we got in the township, and I know that we could give people that had under 25, small business on the payroll. They qualified for I don't know how many thousands of dollars it was to help with their expenses or their employees' expenses. And there was a grant, and 25 of there was a list put together, and this is just recently over the virus, that they are going to get some help, and that was good leadership.
Some help from the
through the township. I think it was through a federal grant.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were sharp enough to keep on the board to help some of the businesses out there. And that's great, and that's a very positive thing, and I was glad to see that. And I sit on the economic board, and I was happy to see that. But in answer to your question, did that have some more effects on the bigger businesses that shut down? Well, of course it did. the bigger businesses lost a lot of money, and so did the small businesses. And the longer, of course, it was shut down, the more businesses that the more business that they were losing, and of course, the longer that you're shut down, a lot of them might have to go out; they'll never recover. So, if you're asking what the effect on Flint Township was with this shutdown, it was bad.
Let me ask you a political question. Do you think the shutdown was necessary, or if it was necessary, was it necessary for the period of time in which the shutdown occurred?
I think it was overhyped. The shutdown. I took the virus very seriously. I did all the precautionary things. I didn't go out. I sat in the house. I wore my face mask. I did everything that the government asked me to do. Within, and I had no problem with that. Anytime you get a pandemic virus, it's, the first projections it was going to kill 2 million people. That was pretty serious stuff. They overhyped it. They overdid it. I don't know if they had it to do over again, though, if they would have shut down the whole economy for all the grief that's caused us, because the people that we lost, every one of them was an important life. We lost 110,000 people so far, but it certainly wasn't 1 million or 2 million people. And then they say, well, what happens if it regenerates itself? Well, now I think we can hit the hot spots a lot better than we could before this happened, and we're going to have to address it, because you can't live in fear the rest of your life, and you can't shut it down. Life's a gamble when you get up in the morning. But no, you can't keep it going on and on and on and on. I understand why they had to do it for what they did, but it's time to get back to business now.
Yeah, Dave, your understanding of government is so profound, and I've gotten more interested and energized around looking at the local a lot more than I have. I have really put too much of my attention, I don't know too much, but I put almost all my attention on the national. I'm really energized now around what's happening in the township. Now, you want to, if you're elected, you want to go back to the 7 o'clock
Change the meeting hours back to normal hours. Like
still 2 days a week. Will still be.
Well, they have 2 meetings a month. First and third Monday.
Okay.
I want it back 6 to 7
First
o'clock.
and third, okay.
Yes.
7 o'clock. How long do meetings last?
Well, it depends on what's the agenda. If there's not too much, they've been as short as 20 minutes and as long as 3 hours.
Okay.
And of course, if something really comes up in the township and the place is packed, and it just depends on how that goes.
Yeah, what would bring the voters out to a meeting? I mean, I haven't been to any of the meeting myself, so I'm kind of like a local.
Well, a local
I'm a
issue,
derelict on the local level.
it could be a police problem, in their neighborhood, or some problems that are going on there. It could be zoning issues. It could be people that would like to see some work done on their roads, road business. It can be, the whole potpourri of, what the township government does. If something gets, a hot spot on it and it affects somebody, them and the neighbors are going to come up to those meetings and state.
Yeah,
that's the nice thing about local government. It's accessible.
Yeah, it is accessible. I did go to a meeting some years ago. I can't remember what we were hollering about, but I was in there hollering with everybody else.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was, though. It's been quite a few years, but I think it might have been something that whoever the person was, we turned them out in the following election. I can't remember what
was it recalling a supervisor?
It came in.
Was it over garbage fees and pickup?
I think that might have been what it was.
So they were double dipping. Yeah, Linda Barber.
There were a lot of folks.
She was a supervisor.
Right, that's what it was.
And she did eventually get recalled over that.
Well, now, what was that about again?
Well, it was they came out of nowhere and up. In your taxes, we always had our garbage assessments right in your taxes.
Right.
Well, then they came up, you were going to do that, but then this new pickup that they had going was going to be another cost, another fee above and beyond that from what you were already paying in your taxes.
Right.
And that's when they came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, what was the solution to it? Did they go back to just the...
I think they just went back to, what your taxes were covering, and they went, I'm thinking with your garbage, you put out your recycling, they added that to it, and I don't know if that was a little fee that was added, a minute fee to that.
Right.
I don't know, but they solved it that way. Before, they just, I don't know what she was thinking. She just came out and said, okay, we've got this extra surcharge on the taxes.
Yeah, that was a major. That was really major because they had so many people at that meeting the idea of additional costs. You know,
Well,
we're talking.
they couldn't hold it all in the town. If you remember,
Who lost the position?
Linda Barber.
Linda Barber.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
supervisor,
Exactly.
yeah. If you remember, there were so many people that came to the meeting that they closed, the town hall couldn't hold it, and they had to
They
take it
sure
down
did
to the
move
fire
it.
hall.
That's right. I
Yeah,
remember that.
where there was more people.
Now, how many years ago was that?
Oh my gosh, George, that was probably, I'm thinking 20 years or more now.
That's my
Time
last time.
flies. Yeah, time flies.
I think I had just moved down here at that point.
Yeah.
I walked into that store. It said, we're going to the meeting. Now, there was one other one too, though. We were trying to get our road paved. You know, I live in on the subdivision, River Forest Drive.
Yes.
And we had this really
I'm familiar with it.
Boy, that road was really torn up.
Yeah.
And we have this guy. You probably know him, Mr. Rouse.
Yes.
And he's an organizer of the community. He said, "Look, we got to go to the meeting. They're talking about putting some gravel down there. We can't have that. And we got to have our road paved." And we finally got it paved. So we did make an appeal.
There was grant money out there, and they had to take a survey of all the income of all the people that were around there to qualify for the grant.
Okay.
Number one, and then once they got that established, I don't know, did you have to pay an extra percentage when that was done or not?
I don't think we paid
Okay.
another assessment.
Well, they did it with a grant then, and they got it going that way.
Okay, so it's voices for you right there. then.
Yes.
So okay, we're being listened to.
Yeah, and that's another good thing, you know. Is, I guess like I'm Father Time, you know. I'm 68 years old now. I'm no spring chicken either, and I sat on the the road commission because we had a millage that was passed in the township, a .5 road millage, just for the structure of the township, because we don't have our own DPW. That's all our work for the roads is Genesee County Road Commission. You know, the only one that has their own DPW would be Flushing, but they're a city. They've got their own road commission.
Okay.
Okay. We do not, so we have to go. But we did get a .5 millage. The taxpayers paying the Flint Township that generated revenue of about $700,000. Well, that sounds great, but when it comes to roads, it doesn't cover a whole lot of roads. So our road commission, basically, we put surveys all around the township. And no special favors or anybody. We'd go on which roads needed the money to go to the first. Okay, and we distributed it around the township in a fair and equal thing, and that was a great thing because we were getting a lot of our infrastructure of roads done where nobody else could do it because they didn't have that extra millage involved. And I was on the road committee that appropriated that and made the decisions on that. And they still got that, and I think that millage is gonna come up one time. That's one of the few millages that really probably did what it was intended to do and did a lot of good thing. But like I say, the money that it did generate, you couldn't redo the whole township. You just have to take little projects each year and contract that with the Genesee County Road Commission for them to come in and do the work, but they did a lot of good. If we wouldn't have had that in Flint Township, a lot of these subdivisions and a lot of these roads would be just unbearable.
Yeah,
so that was a good thing that happened for the township.
That was very good. You were talking about the need to appeal to Democrats, Republicans, Independents. What effect do you think, given the popularity or lack of popularity of President Trump, what effect you think that'll have on the local campaign? In your case?
Well, you never know how that's going to filter down. The only thing that I see, and here again, I'm not a political swami, but I follow it. It does seem if you love or hate Trump, he generates a lot of excitement and he generates a lot of enthusiasm, okay? Or on the other hand, I don't think with Biden, you're gonna see that same type of enthusiasm.
I don't see any enthusiasm on the other side.
No, but you just never know because in Genesee County and in Flint Township, we've had generations and generations of unions and their family that's been passed down from family to family to family. And unfortunately, the thinking on that is, well, when you go vote, just vote straight Democratic, straight ticket. And that's what's happened in Genesee County in this area for decades. It's not a good thing. You see what a one-party system, the results of it can be bad. And we need some more common sense. Government, people running for office, I think I represent that. You have to have a voice for the people, to make the people somebody that really wants to stand up for the people and have the people heard and not be afraid to talk on the issues, to mumble, well, I'll check back with you later. I want to guarantee you, if I'm elected to the Flint Township Board of Trustees and these issues come up, I will do everything in my power and everything in my homework and the energy that I can give to relate these issues, to give back to something to these people that are running the show. And that is the taxpayers, and that is the small business people.
Yeah, Dave, I have to tell you, I think your passion it comes through very loud and clear. You know, you're very passionate about the township, and I've talked to you a number of times, and each time I feel like I've gone to school as far as what you've been saying. Now you're running again. You say you ran how many times before?
Couple times as a Democrat, yes.
Okay, so
And I did run way back years ago. I ran one time as a Republican.
what made you get back into the fray this time? What was the?
Well, I did some soul searching because I'm a competitive guy. I don't like to lose. I've been around sports all my life, and I've been a competitive person all my life. When I put my name on the ballot, it's just not as a thing to do for entertainment. I do it because I'm serious. I want to win. I want to represent the people. But I figured for all the time and effort that I've given on volunteer boards in the township, my father my late father was on the board of trustees. He cared very much about the township. In fact, when he was on the board, I told you he donated. Back then, the trustees were making $3,500 a year. He donated $2,000 of his salary for new police uniforms for the police department.
Is that right?
Yeah, but he was always a public servant. But I have a family history of getting involved with it. Like I say, I've lived in the township for over 50 years. I've paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes to operate the show. And I have a vested interest. I have a card in the game. And I thought to myself, I should get back in the fray again, because if you don't get back on the fray and you sit on the sidelines and you sit back and complain and say, well, I was going to run, but I just don't like the fray anymore. Well, I ran because I think people still would like to see me on that board, and it's not about me. They would like to see me on the board because I'd be a voice for them.
I think so.
Okay, and that's why I decided, you know what? I'm a conservative. I'm proud to run as a Republican. I am conservative. I'm not a right-wing lunatic. I'm for fair government. I can listen to both sides. I'm a people person. I can work with anybody. I do have the interests of Flint Township is my number one concern, and I decided, George, for all the money that I've invested into this, for all the boards that I've spent, free volunteer work in the interests of the township, it would be a discredit to me to stand up and look people in the face this time around and say, well, I've just lost my fire for it. I'm tired of not being able to win. That's an excuse. You either, in this life, in our American democracy and politics, you got two choices. You can either donate to somebody you want to see elected, or you can run yourself. Well, and that's in my position. I've donated to people before. I've been involved in the political game, but now I think with my experience, with my background, with my knowledge, with my fire, I could be a great voice for the people of Flint Township, and that's why I'm running.
That is a good summary. I was going to ask you to summarize your campaign for us in a minute, so you already done it. So I'm very glad to have that as a summation. We want to again thank you, Dave, for coming in. It's been a pleasure for me to listen
George,
to you.
it's always a pleasure to come in here and speak with you and to go over government anywhere. We've done it before on the national level. This is local level, but it's funny. All things are local, even state and national politicians will tell you that. Local politics is very important.
Next time we talk, I'll have a pen and paper to take some notes. I want to thank you again, Dave, for coming in. We are very happy to have you in the studio. Those of you who are also running on the for the board, we will welcome you to the studio also, and maybe we can do an interview as well. Again, Dave, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.